Hey there, everyone. This is Silk, and we are going to do a different project here. I'm going to call this my Japanese primer, or kind of a core principle on kind of explaining how I play Japan, why I play Japan that way, and that sort of thing. As it turns out, one of my friends is doing a game sometime in the next week or so, and was hoping that one of the sort of newer players could get some advice tips. And they, in particular, playing Japan, and they had kind of seen what I had done with Operation Thunderball, and said, "Hey, could you kind of give some tips?" I said, "Yeah, I can send an email. I can organize some stuff." But I kind of rethought it. I said, "You know what? I should just do a video of it. That way, I can actually show kind of what's going on the board for how and why I do what I do." And then I got kind of a little bit off track. I'm like, hey, maybe I'll just do something where I show all the different things that Japan can do, and went down, made some notes, and all the different possibilities. And I kind of actually backtrack on that, and I decided, part of the fun of this game kind of is people playing their own stuff in their own way. And so I'm not actually going to do a general primer on Japan. I'm not going to do all the various DI options and how to launch a Pearl Harbor attack, or take out Sydney, as you guys saw Wintermute do, or surprise attack on San Francisco, or anything like that. I'm just going to be my primer. This is how I play Japan, go into a little bit of how it works, what the goals are, and all those sorts of things. I do think from a tactical standpoint, it's pretty successful. It uses just a lot of the kind of core goals of what I've learned playing thousands and thousands of hours of Axis and Allies, and a few hundred hours of Global War. And it's just going to be kind of true to me, kind of thing is what I decided would do, and that would be more useful to people. So here we go. So this is I call it gotta catch 'em all, kind of a little Pokemon reference. The goal here is to maximize Japan's points. I'm going to try to take nearly every point that Japan can acquire, which again is kind of what you saw me do with Operation Thunderball. Those points are kind of as follows. Of course, you need to keep Tokyo because that's right there, so that's the first one. After that, you take Nanking. This is by far probably the most important point that Japan can get. You might lose all of your points, but whatever you don't lose Nanking. It is perhaps the easiest one for you to keep of all of your points, other than Tokyo. So it should be one of the first ones you acquire. It should be the last one you would ever possibly lose. And because of the plus minus nature of the victory cities, it's actually almost kind of worth two, because it's worth 1 point for you, and whoever has it doesn't get to collect that point. So if the Allies get Nanking, not only do the Axis go down one, but they go up one. It's a real shift there. So you gotta kind of make sure you do that. Point two, of course, is your Siam and DEI point. That one's actually pretty hard to score. You'll even notice in Thunderball, I ended up losing it at the late game there. Um, Probably I was going to retake it. I had still already kind of had units in position to retake it the turn later. Um, but even so, it's often hard to keep. These islands here are pretty easy to take once the allies are late game enough. So this one is great early on. You absolutely need it for the money, but it's a little bit of a challenge to score it. But you got to try. It's part of your set. Um, Next point, of course, is Burma, which runs from more or less from here all the way down to Malaya and Cochin China. This one, either you're going to get it or you're not. In a lot of cases, you saw, of course, with the way I was able to control the board in Operation Thunderball. Once you have enough resources here, it's easy to keep. Because anybody who wants to come in there, you can kind of strike back and whatnot. But if tables are turned on you, you got to keep all of these territories. And once the allies are here, they're just gonna keep sniping them back, and you'll end up losing that point if you're not careful. Calcutta is kind of the next one. Calcutta, similar to Nanking, is a victory city, so it's really kind of worth two. Um, if you're gonna take it, it's a huge win if you do though. It is, to me, kind of Japan's primary objective, regardless of all the other stuff that's going on, is to get Calcutta. If you can take Calcutta and actually hold it and end the game with it, that's a pretty good way to make an Axis victory go. Obviously, lowering the Allies' point by one helps you beat them. Giving you 1 point helps you beat them. And more importantly, it's a -1 on the game end roll. And the Axis need the game to end as fast as they can. As the game goes on, the income imbalance gets worse and worse for them in most cases. So that's why I place such a high priority to Calcutta. And then Sydney's kind of the last one, as you guys saw there. Um, with Sydney, I had set it as an objective. I think it's a valuable objective for Japan to consider. It is definitely lower than Calcutta. I would much rather take Calcutta. It's worth more money. It's easier to protect. It's easier to take really. It's easier to take. It's easier to hold. And it's worth more cash. It takes more resources away from the Allies. So Calcutta, I put a much higher priority of Sydney. But Sydney's kind of the coup de grace. If you can hold Calcutta and hold Sydney, even if you lose your other points, just on the victory cities, you're probably gonna coast to a win if Germany can keep Paris intact. And then last two, of course, is Kita Pattaya. That one's kind of a bit of a luck issue. You've got to A, decide that you really want heavy battleships. B, you got to roll them successfully. And then you've got to kind of deal with whatever the American situation is because they're going to go for Big Blue Fleet at the same time, more often than not. So it's kind of a strategy element there to keeping it, and I'll discuss that a little bit. Um, but to some degree, it is just kind of a luck thing where you've just got to roll into the dice to get them early enough. If you don't get heavy battleships until turn 12 or 13, it's going to be hard to score Kita Pattaya. You really got to get it as early as you can there, hopefully by turn 10 or 11, as far as that goes. And then last one is the one that I don't recommend really a Japanese air player ever try, and I certainly won't bother. It's Guam, Midway, Wake, and you've got to have all of them. And more often than not, the U.S. is going to make taking Midway pretty challenging. So kind of as you saw with what happened in Operation Thunderball, even with all of the successes that I had, I really wasn't that particularly close to actually challenging for that last point. Um, so I just kind of write that one off. So let's talk. How do you get all these points? The first main thing of how you're going to make that happen is IPP. The money engine is what drives success in Axis Allies, Global War, and everything else. Money turns into units, units turns into victories, victories turns into money. And as you can shift the balance to your favor, if I have 40 IPP and you only have 30, I've got more units than you. I'm going to replace my losses faster and better than you. That's going to make it easier for me to take your territory. And that's going to shift even more money to me. And it's going to make it harder for you to defend. And it's going to kind of create a snowball effect, which again, Thunderball kind of showed a little bit. If you get a big enough lead in cash, that cash lead will turn into a military lead, and it'll take more and more effort for your opponents to take that military lead away from you. And if you can build a big enough lead, even by game's end, they won't get it back from you. So where do you get your money? Correct answer for V4 here is China. China is worth a very sizable amount of cash to Japan. Um, if you just look at the core, just kind of values, Quangtong's 2, Hainan's 1. These are all 2 each. 1, 2, 3. If you don't even count Shensi and Yunnan, if you just say, hey, what are the easy territories I can take? You've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, plus the island 13. You've got $13 here on the coastline that are all invadable by Japan, which tends to mean that the Chinese forces don't go near it. And then the Shensi is kind of one of their spots. Is that once you've got the CCP on the run, usually you grab Shensi without too much trouble too. And 13 plus 2 is 15. 15 IPP is a pretty significant chunk of money. At the beginning, it's resources going to you, and it's resources you're taking away from the allies. You don't want KMT to collect this $6 turn over turn. They're going to eventually build an army that's too big for you to deal with. So don't let that happen. You need that money. You need that differential. You want to have it so that you're earning 30, they're earning 2, and they just can't keep pace with the production that you're putting in the field. And additionally, because of the way the victory objectives work, all of these coastal territories, from Beijing all the way down to Kwangtung, these 6 territories here, are each worth +1 to Japan. Um, Add that up, 15 plus 6 is 21. That is a significant, your starting income is only 16. That is a significant ramp up to your income. So we want China. We want China for the victory point here in Nanking. We want China for the income to pay for all of our activities later on. How do you get China? A couple of different approaches, but mostly mine is pretty straightforward. First thing I do, and you can kind of see with Thunderball, I get the Soviets off my coast. Use your planes, drop them up in Manchuria and in East Manchuria, and force them off the line. They'll or kill them if they stay. Do a board clash, slaughter them, and make them run. they won't have the ability to stay. So for example, kind of just looking at the starting board here, move a cav up here, you move, you know, 4 planes, 5 planes, whatever number it is you decide you want to do. Put enough planes up here, and it looks like that. And suddenly, the Soviets have no desire to be anywhere around here with a border clash. Like this kind of border clash will just annihilate because you've got enough planes. They'll get their heads, and that'll force the Japanese off the border. That'll let you upgrade this militia here in northern Manchuria, this militia here in eastern Manchuria. I do this one on turn 1, I do this one on turn 2, I do this one on turn 3. And you get them upgraded and moved over because you need to get a bit of reheat so you can invade CCP. So this one gets upgraded on turn 1. Um, he then gets railed down to reheat on turn 2. This one gets upgraded on turn 2. He moves to reheat on turn uh, 3. And the one here gets upgraded on turn 3, and he's ready to attack on turn 4. So that's the way to do that. Or this one doesn't get to go yet because you attacked on turn 3. That's a couple of different options there, kind of thing. But that's just a basic, quick, easy way to get the Russians off Manchuria and let you do things you want to do. So let's talk how and when you go into China. Ooh, excuse me. My apologies. I do have a bit of a cold, and I'm kind of getting over here. So, uh, how and when do we go into China? So, turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, turn 5. Kind of your choices. If you wait till turn 6, you've waited way too long. You've let the CCP and the KMT both get more troops than you should be letting them get. You're losing the income differential. You've given up, I don't know, 40 income. You could have earned 50, something in that neighborhood, and you've let them collect, again, somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 or 40 extra income that you could have taken away from them by driving them off. Um, However, the problem, of course, is here on turn 1, you don't have the resources to do things. You don't have any Marines, which is by far the biggest problem. Your units are out of position. Um, you're not going to attack on turn 1. Just don't do it. I really don't recommend it. You're not going to get a sweeping enough victory. Um, you're not really gonna your losses are gonna be too high. I just don't even want to show a way to do it because I think it's that bad of a plan. So let's get to turn 2. Let's do a turn 1 buy here. Grab a couple Marines. So if you're turn 1, or if you're doing a turn 2 attack, you probably bought 2 Marines and 2 artillery. I don't really believe in the turn 2 attack very often. There might be a board state that lets you do it if KMT is particularly weak and kind of set. If they're looking, I don't know, maybe something like this, you might decide to go ahead and try to kill this Hunan stack here. Just try to kind of weak down the CCP. Uh, these guys, of course, can all be here on turn 2, and you could rail. So you could look like this, plus an artillery built. So that could be a turn 2, and then you've got two Marines that you bought. You could have already dropped off both of these guys and this guy. So that could be what you're looking at with a turn 2 attack, which that plus your planes more than enough to go into Suyan, Beiping, and Hopei. You could pretty easily pull that off. But you're not going to have enough forces to do that and anything here against the KMT. So you're kind of just letting the KMT get a whole bunch of units early and get rallied around. Um, in addition, you're going to get the U.S. is going to get their income rolls a whole because China determines U.S. tech. So if you're invading on turn 2, U.S. is going to get to roll 4 tech dice on turn 2. Actually, potentially 5 if they upgraded factory on turn 1. So I don't really believe in the turn 2 attack either. Let's get to turn 3. Turn 3 is kind of the first window where I really think you can go after Japan. CCP at that point, you still have all of this, but you have, most importantly, 2 more Marines. You bought 2 Marines on turn 1, you bought 2 Marines on turn 2. It's now turn 3. And you might have likely you upgraded a factory instead of buying 2 artillery. So you don't have this artillery here, and you don't have this artillery here, theoretically, from turn 1. But you probably do have them from turn 2. Because turn 2, you absolutely could have bought 2 Marines, 2 artillery, and upgraded a militia. So that artillery could have been there, and that artillery could be here from turn 2. Um, that you bought, and then this guy, again, this guy got upgraded on turn 1 into an infantry. He can't leave yet. And you're going to upgrade this one on turn, actually, no, because we're on turn 3. So this guy could have been upgraded on turn 1, turned into an infantry. So you'd have one more infantry down here, because he could have moved down, he could have railed down here from turn 2 that you have to work on. From there, it's somewhat similar. You kind of ask yourself, what is it that you're trying to go for? And if I'm doing a turn 3 attack, I'm still looking to maximize my firepower. Ideally, you're going to try to take some or all of this coast, as much as you can reasonably score and still get winning fights up and down the line. You want to take Suyan, Peking, Hopei, so that you can surround. Well, as long as you can surround Beiping, it falls pretty easily. It's not a hard thing to do. Use your tacticals up here in Suyan to get your easy hits. You bring your mountain. I like to bring an artillery either into Beiping with the motorized is often what I'll do because I'll use it to take Shensi the next turn, and I'll throw my cav and my infantry and my planes into Suyan. And then from there, it's kind of a question of where your Marine's going. And the answer to that question is kind of hard to say because it very much depends on what the KMT is showing you as a plan. If like taking 4 guys is not impossible by any stretch. If it's 4 infantry, maybe they've got maybe they bought a militia, something like that, kind of thing. And they might have saved $2. They might have put somebody back here. They might have board might look something like this. Would not be unreasonable. And in this situation, I'd probably leave the big stack alone, just to make sure that I can take all the main things that we take. That's why I take Nanting, Shangtung, Hopei, up, and I'd get a single Marine down there on Hainan to grab it. Don't let the KMT have that one for free because they can if you don't have a boat there march unit across, they can build a militia there. It's a nice free dollar. Take it while it's a free dollar. Even if you you'll get to use those units later, it's worth your time. So if it's turn 3 and you take all of these territories, if you could take from Suyan down to Nanking, look at your cash point here. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but then 9, 10, 11, 12 for your bonuses. So your income went up 12. The CCP still has their $2 from Shensi, but that's all they've got. Even if they won the influence rolls here at Szechuan or in Qinghai and flip them, it's still a relatively small army. They're going to run away. The KMT is going to get Kwangtung and Yunnan, but that income's going to basically stay where it's at. So they're going to have in this board state they'd have 5, 2 Hunan, 2 Kwangtung, and Yunnan. But they can't stay here in Hunan. They already know you're just going to hit them again a turn later. So they'll have to run away, and you're going to create that income disparity that you're after. Some people you might see a board state like this, and in this case, I'd be a lot happier. I'd love to face this kind of board state because at this point I would go ahead and grab Hunan as well. I would run probably the entire set. My fighters go here. My tacticals go here in Sudan. My bombards mostly go here and Hopei. And you just run the table. Just clear the sweep, and then on turn 4 you're going to take Kwangtung and Shensi and be done with it. It's kind of what you're going for with a turn 3 attack. Different KMT players are going to do different things. You kind of have to somewhat adjust as you need to, but you're the bully, so don't be afraid to be the bully. You just got to make sure you have enough Marines that you can deal with a 3 casualty possible turn 1, because that can happen. I've seen 5 on a large enough KMT stack. After that, you just kind of sweep in, clean up Shinsi, clean up Kwangtung. You'll start pushing them. They'll go into the field position, and we'll get to that in a minute. So that's kind of your turn 3 strike. So now I'm going to show you the special one. So this is what my actual plan was in Operation Thunderball. So the turn 4 attack is one that I'm pretty fond of. What my plan was until Global War Enthusiast kind of left the coast open, and I grabbed it all for free. Which, if you ever see that, grab it. Um, Free zero risk battle money is priceless in this game. If you see it, grab it, get on it before they can change their mind and start the snowball up. But if you wait till turn 4, you've got 6 Marines. And you pretty easily can get again another 2 artillery maybe that you bought on turn 3. Um, and now you can start to do some pretty cool things. So if the KMT really did decide that they wanted to go all in on holding Hunan, if they're doing something like this, and maybe they've got another militia here, because they certainly had the money, they could have a militia here. They could easily have 2 or 3 more infantry here. This could be 8 infantry, 9 infantry, who knows, and a stack of I guess that's 8 already. They could have 10 infantry, 2 militia, no sweat. Um, the catch is if they do this, go ahead and kill them. Like just attack with 5 or 6 Marines, 3 artillery, 2 infantry, 4 planes, and still go ahead and do your sweep up here to take out Bei Ping Hopei and Suyan with the remaining planes and your other forces. Um, but if you can kill a really large stack of uh, KMT forces, if they present you a chance to kill 8 or 10 guys, go ahead and do it. It'll set them behind and make your life a whole lot easier on later turns. Usually you're not going to see that by turn 4 though. KMT already kind of is going to know it's coming. They're going to have a board that looks a little bit something, might look a little more like this. Uh, Maybe there's an infantry there. Maybe they've got 2 militia here, kind of stuff. Um, and in this kind of board, I still, of course, do all this. But what I like to do is come in behind and snipe Yunnan, or Kwangtung, I'm sorry. Um, that creates some real pressure point on uh, KMT. So you assign probably at least 3 Marines. There's only 6 units here. You know you're going to get some bombards. You're probably going to get like 8 bombards into this fight, or 7, whatever your max bombard fight is. Um, you're going to apply again 2 or 3 planes to blow through it, and if you're willing to apply enough force, you'll melt this army very very quickly, as long as you apply effort to it. And if you start of turn 5, because you launched this attack on turn 4, if in Kwangtung you've got 8 ground units and potentially 7 planes that can all attack Yunnan, um, that forces the KMT immediately to defend Yunnan. And now you get to come back and just sweep up whatever you didn't take here. Falls very, very cheaply and quickly on turn 5. Um, and you already have Kwangtung, so you're kind of already in position. So these theoretically fell on turn 4 with this one, and then on turn 5 it's Shensi, Hopei, Shangtung, Nanking, Hunan, and you just sweep them all up. Um, one of the tricks you'll see me do is which you saw me buy the light armor. Um, if you buy the light armor here and drive it into Kwangtung on turn 4, on turn 5 it can help you because it can pair with a fighter blitz to either grab Hunan and Shangtung or Hunan and Nanking, either one, and kind of just again you're just looking for base efficiencies of getting multiple units into fights and just snag it up. And all we're trying to do is collect all of this Chinese coastal money as quickly as possible within reason to start getting paid. After that, you can kind of get the KMT into a corner. You threaten the CCP until they back off. If they leave you a chance to kill them, kill them. But they should run. You'll deal with them later. And that kind of covers you with really how to get into China. Um, Potentially on turn 5, if you really wanted to wait that long, uh, I guess to try to keep the income down or to keep the U.S. tech rolls down, I would probably build a 6th transport somewhere in there so that I can get even more of a naval invasion. Um, And in that situation, you could probably take both Kwangtung on turn 5 and still. I don't know if you get all of the coastline, but probably a decent chunk of the coastline if you have that 6th transport. That could happen. Um, it's pretty similar to the income situation that you might see in a turn 4 attack, but you didn't get any of the money on turn that you could have gotten on turn 4. So you kind of gave up, give or take, you know, 12 to 15 IPP there that you could have collected on turn 4 that you didn't collect until turn 5. So I really don't like turn waiting until turn 5. And after that, you've kind of messed up if you don't take China by turn 5. So I'm not even going to talk about what you could do on turn 6 or after. You already kind of out of position as far as I'm concerned. All right, so that's that. That's China. Generally speaking, you should be able to get KMT and CCP out of your hair uh, within 5 turns if you're on the ball. 6 at the absolute most. And it could be done in as little as 4 if you get lucky or have some opponents leaving a nice opening for you. So that's China. Now let's get into the DEI. So I don't like attacking the DEI. I actually kind of view it as a bit of a trap. The DEI is worth a lot of money. It's the money islands. That's what I like to call it. And it's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's your 9 money. Notice though that China was already 13, actually 15 counting Shenxi, and the China's even more than that because its bonuses, its wartime bonuses, you actually get to collect. So it's China is 15 plus 6. It's $21 of bonuses income that you get to collect as you fight for them. The DEI is only 9. You don't get the wartime bonuses until you're at war with Britain or the United States, which usually those are both at the same time. And conversely, going into the DEI gives the US 2d12, so you're giving them $13. If for some reason you're doing this before the Germans have declared war, England, FEC, and Zach all get the money as if you went after China again. So you're boosting their income up, and you're not going to get paid as much. Just doesn't work. There is maybe a game situation where I would go for the DEI if my German player really asked me to. If they wanted to do a really early Atlantic wall, I would then probably do a lighter attack into China, and I'd try to set up a turn 7 DEI. I would just cancel against it. If I'm gonna take the DEI, I want to do it. I'm gonna do it late, either after the Brits are already. If I'm gonna attack the DEI and collect money on it, I want the wartime bonus income. So I'm either at war with Britain already, or I'm about to be, one or the other. So I might grab the DEI on turn 9 if I think I'm gonna go to war on turn 10, or maybe I grab it on turn 10 if I think I'm gonna go to war on turn 11. Um, or I might do something similar to what you saw me do with Thunderball, where I kind of set up and knew that I'd catch the DEI on the way back if I'm doing a strike Calcutta. If I see that as an option, I'll hit Calcutta on, again, about turn 10 is my kind of ideal time to strike them. Um, and then I'll grab the DEI on the way back, and again collect that money and get it rolling in my favor. So let's talk Burma. So the Burma objective is actually pretty easy to accomplish. Malaya is really the only thing you've got to deal with. In a lot of cases, Malaya is not that hard to take. If a British player tries to put too much stuff in Malaya, Calcutta is going to fall. And they really don't want Calcutta to fall. Calcutta is certainly more important than Malaya, so they're just going to put more resources into Calcutta. So you may have a situation where you can't take Calcutta. They've just got too many troops there for you to deal with. And in that instance, surprise attack on Malaya is actually pretty easy because you can just launch it from right here, and then immediately grab the DEI, or having already gotten the DEI, you just slide back and attack Malaya. As long as you're using your surprise attack, it's going to crumble pretty quickly. Your planes all getting first strike, them getting all -1, even with the +2 boost for the fortification, it'll limit its effectiveness. So long as you have a good artillery army coming after across the line, you'll cut them down. You can take 12 guys down pretty easily in Malaya without too much trouble, so long as you put enough effort into it. So that's just kind of an item to focus on. It's really just kind of a question of are you surprised taking Malaya or are you surprised taking Calcutta? It's very rarely you get to do both in the same turn. I was able to do that in Thunderball, kind of because of how well China went early on, that's not going to be an experience most players are going to have. So that's not something I would recommend trying. Usually you're gonna do Calcutta on one turn and Malay on another. So just kind of as a thing to look out for. Once that's done, you're gonna get the factory in Siam. You're gonna get the air. One of the things to consider doing is putting a factory in Siam before you've even taken Calcutta, or sorry, Malaya. Um, if I don't think I'm going to get to surprise attack Calcutta, I'm much more likely to want to put a factory in Siam early, turn 9, turn 10, so that I can get some more units on the ground because I'm going to have a dog fight with Britain. We're gonna fight in all these jungle territories. So it's gonna be a bit of a pain, um, and I'll want that extra factory to just get boots on the ground immediately. Uh, Whether that's artillery, infantry, or heavy armor, it's gonna be some combination thereof. Um, and then, of course, once I've gotten Burma and Malaya, I'll get the second factory. And if I have improved factories, suddenly I've got fort production there, and you're going to be able to keep up with whatever the Brits are doing, and possibly just do a land war way across, kind of freeing up your fleet to go fight the Americans or the British or wherever else. So that is a way to do it, certainly. Um, my preference, of course, is to kind of, as you saw in Thunderbolts, to skip past it all, cut it off. Once you've kind of decapitated it, the FEC can't build units anymore, and sweeping out their troops becomes pretty easy to do. So that's kind of my recommendation, is that you instead uh, build up what you need in Siam, and then launch your surprise attack at Calcutta and decapitate it and be done with it. Um, there is a scenario where you don't think the surprise attack will work, and you'll instead just place a really large army here in southern India and place what you need here in Bengal as well, and you kind of do a surround, and you can surround Calcutta and kill it a turn later. Um, in that instance, I would surprise attack Malaya, probably, but you got to figure it out. Every board situation is kind of its own. So that gets you now to turn, 10, 11, 12. Again, you either this is where the DEI is on. As soon as you're at war with England, you want to be collecting the DEI income, because the money islands, once I add in um, the +4 value for these two, suddenly goes from 9 to 13. And that's real money. You need that money. You want it. You gotta feed the beast of the war machine. Collect it and score it, and kind of use it to ideally go one on one with the Americans. Japan's goal is to be on pretty close to economic parity with the Americans. If you can pull that off, the Axis are in a good spot. That's just kind of as a baseline to go. You hopefully, if the Germans can stay ahead of the Soviets and the Americans are staying ahead of, or the Japanese are staying ahead of the Americans, that's a pretty good board state to be looking for, accomplishment wise, as far as kind of a baseline. Um, so after you've done all that, you can then now have to figure out whether you're going to take Sydney or not. As you guys kind of saw, I took Sydney very, very late. It did not fall until literally turn 18. Um, but you can launch some units to natively invade Queensland. You drop a couple of factories there, so you can build up some additional units, and then you just need some way to blockade it. You either got to bomb the airfield and the shipyard there, or you've got to be able to bomb it and blockade it. Your choice, kind of thing. If that's the case, make sure you're interfering with submarines or a blockade to interdict it, to slow down the Lend-Lease. Um, One of the advantages of Sydney is that it's really far away for the U.S. fleet to get down there. It's once if you can get there first, you can really kind of get in there before the U.S. can respond. That is an option. Um, I don't really require Sydney in the battle plan, but it's a good thing to grab if you can. Again, it's kind of the final piece in the coffin. If Japan can score both uh, Calcutta and Sydney, you've probably had a successful Japanese game. So yeah, for that. Last thing I want to talk about is technology and how and why. So my technology is the first one, absolute most important one is heavy armor for me, for Japan. Um, I understand that sounds weird. It's kind of natural to say I want to improve construction or heavy ships, which notably that's text 2 and 3 as far as I'm concerned. So that's not a bad argument. Long range aircraft is a nice quality of life. radar is good to help you with your subs and your fighters. Radar's just kind of an overall too good tech as it is, so I can appreciate that. Um, but at the end of the day, I need heavy armor. Heavy armor solves all of the problems that Japan really runs into. Um, if you look at kind of where Japan's fighting, she's going to do some critical fighting here in Shensi, Kweichow, Yunnan, Kwangtung, these sort of spots where the mountains are getting used by the Chinese to try to kind of slow you down and mess with you. If it turns out you're going to be fighting the Soviets and you want to be fighting them on their territory, which is where you want to fight, all of this is mountainous. Um, so your units are -1 there, and if you're fighting for Calcutta, if you weren't able to surprise strike it, you're going to be fighting in these jungles, and that's -2 to your vehicle units. So the solution to that is heavy armor. Um, Attacks at 8, defense at 7. Even with the jungle, even with the -2 penalty, your attack at 6, defend at 5. A fighter is 6/6. Like, that heavy armor is nearly as good as a fighter, but it gets to take the territory and only costs 7 compared to the fighter's 10. It's just a more efficient unit, and because of the way V4 works, you could build that heavy armor out of your factories in Siam. You don't have to build them somewhere and run them there. You just build them there. You can build them in Rihi and send them against the Russians. You can build them in Kwangtung in a factory there and send them against the KMT. Um, they are solve your problems of throughput. You are putting valuable pips into a battle for low stress numbers. Um, yeah, I can't recommend them enough. I kind of conceptually thought heavy armor would be cool, and I've got to play with it now twice in 2 games, and I absolutely love it. So it is, to me, currently, until I find something better, heavy armor is the number 1 tech for Japan. After that, heavy ships and improved construction are kind of 2 and 3 pretty quickly. Heavy ships is there if you want Kido Butai. If you're willing to not even bother with Kido Butai, you don't need heavy ships. Ditch it and grab something else. Um, this has got to get them all. Is my strategy, and Kido Butai is one of those. So I will pursue heavy ships. Again, if you hit it before the Americans do and get your boats down, you'll see something pretty similar to what I did to America with my fleet. Even if he had gotten heavy ships on turn, even close to where I got them, turn 11, 12, 13, it's a good feel to fight that. Like, you're going to get them on board and drag that American money to fight you, and after that, it's kind of come down to maneuvering. But heavy ships is Kido Butai. It's worth a point. And it's sees dominance late game which you're going to need, because eventually you've got to protect your other points. You've got to be able to protect these territories. You've got to be able to protect what you've taken here. The U.S. is going to be coming for you up in either Midway, or they're going to be coming down to free up Sydney or keep you from taking Sydney. So at some point you're going to have to fight navally to keep your stuff, and few units are going to be as efficient as Kido Butai improved construction. Heavy battleships. $5 heavy battleships are very, very efficient as far as what they accomplish. Highly, highly recommended. That's why Kido Butai is, or not Kido Butai, heavy ships is my number 2 tech, and improved construction is number 3. Only reason why improved construction is 3 because it's a 7, so it's not as, it's a little easier to accomplish in heavy ships. So that's why I started on heavy ships earlier. And I think that's it. I think that kind of gets my core primer of how and what to do. I may do a second addenda or whatever if folks want to shout out and ask questions kind of about how or why my Japan works the way it does. But the key thing to kind of understand: get paid, kill stuff, get paid more, score points, keep your points. That's very much kind of the success of how Japan can run. And as an addendum, one of the reasons why Japan is one of my favorite nations, and just kind of why I also like it for beginners, because of the way the game works. Japan has a lot of control over her schedule. Your opponents don't really get to mess with you. You know exactly when you're going to attack because you planned it that way. You get to orient your buys around what you want to do. You get to kind of bully how you want to bully. And the other factions don't really have that option. They kind of have to react. But Japan doesn't have to react to anyone. She gets to drive the entire theater for the first about 12 or 13 turns of the game. So you can really work on Japan and build a strategy and see which doesn't work, and then come back and do the same strategy but tweak a few things, and then come back again a third time, and you could really kind of hammer hone a strategy and keep working and finding what it is that you like because of how she works at the beginning of the game. So Japan is actually it seems complicated, but it is absolutely a nation that I recommend for beginning players. I think it's a good one to try. Um, I may do a video later about transports and how to use them. But I kind of wanted to keep that out of this one. Again, I wanted to try to keep this more focused just on exactly how and why you can kind of succeed with Japan. So that's all I got. Ask questions in the chat, and I'll try to maybe do an agenda here. Hope everybody found this useful to you. Let me know if you'd like me to do these kinds of things in the future. Everybody have a great day.